Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my playthrough for Decrepit Bursts of Genocide off their 2003 album And Time Begins. I want to share some background on why I chose to cover this song, talk a little bit about the guitar tone, and go over some music theory, since I like that kind of thing. I love death metal, and I have a master's degree from the Manhattan School of Music, so I figured I could put this knowledge to good use. This band and album hold a special place in my heart because it was their old forum on the Sins Metal News website, also known as SMN News, that originally helped me get into more brutal styles of music in general. I met several of my friends that I still know to this day on their forum, and essentially acted as a space for me to explore more unconventional and extreme styles of music. I just kept going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, and the Cali brutal death sound was a huge part of that. The guitar tone on this album was so heavy, I originally thought it was played on a 7-string and A standard. Their guitar player, Matt Sotelo, used a Digitech GSP-21 Legend preamp, and I believe he paired it with the BBE Sonic Maximizer, most likely through a power amp and Mesa 4x12 cab with V30s mic'd with a single SM57.
I think, I don't know if any of the guitar players out there want to know why the guitar tone is so, it's just, like you said, maybe it's unique. I mean, some people, it really bugs the shit out of them, and some people are like, I just love that guitar tone because it's very unique on And Time Begins. Derek and I had an idea of running my Digitech system through his bass SansAmp DI. So we recorded our guitar and then EQ'd it with his bass SansAmp DI and then ran that out into a power amp and then out into a cabinet.
For this cover, I'm using a Balaguer Diablo 6-string tuned to D standard with their stock pickups. I'm recording that signal in the Cubase and using Neural DSP's Omega plugin with the Cali Cab impulse response from Get Good Drums. I think this is a good intermediate death metal song to learn because it's more mid-tempo or upper mid-tempo, so the techniques required are a bit easier to pull off. Down picking, tremolo picking, and alternate picking, if you're comfortable with these techniques in the 180 to 200 BPM range, then you should have no problem with the song. The tremolo picking happens in short bursts, so it's manageable, but you still want to make sure you're tight. It's also super heavy and a lot of fun to play. Okay, so let's discuss some music theory because there are some cool connections to make here, and later I'll tell you about a special one. Rhythmically speaking, this is a very bare-bones song. The only values used are a whole note, half, quarter, dotted quarter, eighth, 16th, and 32nd note. There are no tuplets of any kind, and the tempo remains the same throughout the entire song. However, there is some diminution used in a few measures. If you're not familiar with this concept, it's a compositional technique where a phrase, theme, or motive is repeated, but with a significantly shorter note duration, often by cutting the duration in half. It's used as a rhythmic embellishment to add tension and momentum, and occurs most noticeably in measures 2 and measure 6, where eighth notes now become 16ths, and again in measures 11 and 12, where 16th notes now become 32nd notes. Melodically, if I had to use a scale to describe the sound of the music, I think we can all agree the chromatic scale would make the most sense. But I don't think this was a conscious effort on Matt's part. It's just a staple of what makes death metal sound the way that it does, thanks to all the bands throughout the late 80s and all the 90s to the present day. The use of it here is very Master of Puppets-esque, where he's either just descending or ascending 4-note groupings at a time, also idiomatic to the guitar. Now, this next term I picked up from Lily Gruber of Defeated Sanity, and it's what he refers to as the 4-3-2-1 brutal death motif. This is a kind of single-note riffing style where you move your 4 fingers around the fretboard, either in half or whole steps, to create a melodic pattern that you can easily move around the fretboard for some very dense chromatic lines. We see a perfect example of this in measures 21 through 23. This is a very idiomatic and common technique in brutal death metal, used often by bands such as Deeds of Flesh, Severed Savior, Disgorge, and suffocation. Harmonically, there aren't many intervals used. We mainly have perfect fifths, also known as power chords, and inverted power chords, which is a perfect fourth. There's doubling at the octave sometimes, and then we have major third and minor sixth. Oddly, no tritones are used, or major and minor seconds. But, and I think this is kind of cool, there is a melodic movement of a tritone in measures 12 to 13, and I really enjoyed this moment in the music. I think we can attribute major or minor seconds being used in a melodic context for the song, which does help give it some variety and consistency and provides contrast to the harmonic intervals used. The phrasing used is mainly call and response, which is probably the most commonly used phrase structure in all of Western music. The call sets up musical tension, while the response provides resolution or completion. We hear examples of this in measures 2 through 5, acting as the call, and then the response in measures 6 through 9. We hear another call in measures 14 through 17, and the response in measures 18 through 19. We could even make a case for a call and response subphrase in measures 14 and 15, with the response being measures 16 and 17. Okay, remember how I said earlier that there's a special connection to make here? Well, I think it's hidden in the form. The riffing style is what I like to call run-on sentence riffing, where every measure is essentially something different and nothing repeats verbatim. To me, this is where the Deeds of Flesh influence might come from because it's very much a part of their sound, especially on Embreeding the Afropophagy. I think I said that right. In addition to the 4-3-2-1 brutal death motif that Lily Gruber has pointed out before, I think this run-on sentence style of riffing is also a huge part of the 𝐄𝐦𝐦 brutal death sound. If we break down the form by the phrasing and decide to look at it where the music is changing, we get a longer A through D form and then a literal repeat of this, but with the sample overdubbed on top, all before repeating the first half of the A section to close off the song. This way of writing, where you have a bunch of different riffs in a row and then repeat about half of them, was how Chuck Schuldiner from Death wrote a lot of his songs. We might even call this the Death song structure or Death form because he used it so frequently. Now, that's not to say that the riffs don't have a connection or relationship to another, just that the songs don't follow your typical verse, pre-chorus, chorus structure anymore. I can't say for certain this is where Matt's influence came from for this song, but I do know he's mentioned Deeds of Flesh, and obviously Death have been a huge influence on his writing. So this connection is simply just my interpretation for this analysis. Also, all three bands, are tuned to D standard. So that definitely contributes to how my ears perceive that influence. All right, well, I hope all of you enjoyed my thoughts on this song. I know making a guitar playthrough is a bit of a selfish endeavor, so I do appreciate those of you who checked it out and stuck around to the end, truly. And thank you for listening to me share some of my own personal insights into the song, which I hope brings more life to this channel. If you have any idea for the type of video you'd like to see next, please let me know in the comments below. I do read them. Also, if you like this format, or if you have suggestions for anything I can improve on, I will take it seriously for the next video. I do have another playthrough where I break down the guitar tone more using the Total Distortion Worship pedal from Cult Effects. So if you like this kind of video, please be sure and check that one out too. Also, like, comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Catch you on the next one.